6 years have passed since Capcom delivered what many consider the ultimate return to form for the Devil May Cry series. In 2025, as we look back at Devil May Cry 5, it's clear that this game didn't just meet expectations, it obliterated them and set a new standard for character action games that still hasn't been matched. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I know what you're thinking, another Devil May Cry 5 reviewed in 2025, but hear me out. 6 years later, this game is still absolutely demolishing everything else in the character action genre. And honestly, I think it's time we talked about why Devil May Cry 5 isn't just a great game, it's a masterpiece that's only gotten better with age. I've been playing this game on and off since launch, and recently picked up the special edition again after hearing about some of the community discoveries and tech that's still being found today. And let me tell you, this game just keeps on giving. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive deep into why Devil May Cry 5 is still the king of stylish action in 2025. Let's set the stage here. Back in 2019, the Devil May Cry series was in a weird place. The 2013 DMC reboot by Ninja Theory had left a lot of fans feeling, let's say, disappointed. It wasn't necessarily a bad game, but it felt like a completely different series wearing Devil May Cry's clothes. The combat was simplified, the characters felt different, and that signature DMC attitude just wasn't quite there. So when Capcom announced they were bringing back the original timeline with Itsuno directing, the pressure was immense. This wasn't just about making a good game, this was about proving that the classic Devil May Cry formula still had what it took in the modern aiming landscape. And boy, did they deliver. The game launched on March 8, 2019, and immediately critics were calling it everything from a wild, exhilarating ride to Devil May Cry better than ever. But more importantly, it felt like coming home for longtime fans while somehow being incredibly welcoming to newcomers.
Here's where Devil May Cry 5 gets really interesting, and why I think it's aged so well. This isn't just one really good action game. It's essentially 3 completely different action games that happen to share a story. And I'm not talking about simple character swaps or different weapons. I'm talking about fundamentally different gameplay philosophies that somehow work together perfectly. Nero, the gateway drug. Let's start with Nero, who you'll play as first. If you're new to the series, Nero is basically your training wheels, but in the best possible way. His Devil Breaker system is genius. So you've got these mechanical arms that each do something completely different. Some shoot lasers, some grab enemies, some explode, and some are just absolutely ridiculous in the best way possible. What makes Nero special is that he's got depth without being overwhelming. You can absolutely button mash your way through on easier difficulties, but there's this incredible skill ceiling waiting for you. Learning to manage your double breakers, timing your exceed system to rev up your sword attacks, and mastering his grappling mechanics, it's like learning to play a completely different instrument. Dante, the Swiss Army knife of destruction. And oh boy, this is where things get spicy. Dante has always been the most complex character in the series, and DMC5 doesn't change that. He's got 4 different fighting styles that you can swap between mid-combo, multiple weapons for both melee and range combat, and the ability to combine all of these into absolutely insane combos that look like they belong in a Hollywood movie. Playing as Dante effectively requires you to think like a Jaws musician. You're improvising constantly, switching between Gunslinger for stylish firearm techniques, Trickster for mobility and dodging, Swordmaster for enhanced melee moves, and Royal Guard for defensive options that can turn enemy attacks into devastating counters. The fact that you can do all of this mid-combo means the skill ceiling is basically infinite. And then there's V, who completely breaks the mold of what a Devil May Cry character should be. Instead of getting up close and personal, V hangs back and controls 3 demons. Griffin for ranged attacks, Shadow for melee, and the absolutely devastating Nightmare for when things get really hairy.
What's brilliant about V is that he forces you to think about combat positioning in a completely different way. You're not just managing your own character, you're managing 3 AI companions while staying safe yourself, only diving in for finishing moves. It sounds like it would be boring compared to the other 2, but it's actually incredibly engaging and strategic.
Now, let's talk about why this combat system has aged so incredibly well. In 2025, we've seen a lot of action games try to copy what Devil May Cry 5 does, but none of them quite get it. The secret sauce here is the style meter system combined with the incredible depth of the combat mechanics. The style meter isn't just a score counter, it's the heart of the entire experience. Every move you do builds style, but repeating the same moves decreases your ranking. This demands that you constantly vary your approach, experiment with new combos, and push yourself to be more creative. And here's the kicker. The music dynamically responds to your style rating. When you're in the zone, pulling off sick combos, the soundtrack literally gets more intense and layered. This creates what I like to call the Devil May Cry flow state. You know you've hit it when you stop thinking about individual button presses and start thinking in terms of combo routes and style optimization. It's almost meditative in a weird way. You're not just fighting demons, you're choreographing a ballet of violence.
Let's pause the gameplay discussion for a second and talk about how this game looks. Because even in 2025, Devil May Cry 5 is a visual showstopper. Capcom used their RE engine, the same technology behind Resident Evil 7 and later games, to create something that still holds up against modern releases. The character models are incredible. They actually use real people as the basis for the main characters' faces, and the result is this uncanny valley sweet spot where they look fantastical, but believable. The environments are detailed and atmospheric, the particle effects are gorgeous, and the way everything holds together during the most chaotic combat scenarios is impressive. But what really gets me is the animation work. Each character moves differently, fights differently, and even idles differently in ways that perfectly reflect their personalities. Mira's got this cocky, energetic style, Dante's smooth and confident like he's done this a million times before, V moves like someone who's not quite comfortable in physical confrontations but is trying his best to look cool anyway.
One thing that really impresses me about Devil May Cry 5, especially looking back from 2025, is how it handles difficulty and accessibility. This is a series that has traditionally been pretty punishing for newcomers, but Devil May Cry 5 manages to be welcoming without dumbing anything down. The game offers multiple difficulty options, and here's the key, it doesn't just change enemy health and damage. Different difficulties actually change enemy behavior, introduce new enemy types, and modify the pacing of encounters. So playing on higher difficulties isn't just about surviving bigger damage numbers, it's about learning entirely new strategies. For players who want to experience the story and spectacle without the challenge, there are assist modes that help with combos and timing. For players who want to test their skills against the ultimate challenge, there are difficulty modes that will absolutely destroy you if you're not at the top of your game. And then there's the community aspect. 6 years later, the Devil May Cry community is still discovering new techniques, sharing combo videos, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in this game. The skill ceiling is so high that people are still finding new things in 2025.
If you're thinking about jumping into Devil May Cry 5 in 2020, you definitely want to grab this special edition if you can. This version, which launched alongside the next-gen consoles in 2020, adds Virgil as a fully playable character, and let me tell you, Virgil is absolutely bonkers to play. Virgil reigns his own unique combat style focused on precise, powerful attacks and teleportation abilities. He feels completely different from the other 3 characters, while still fitting perfectly into the overall game design. The special edition also includes enhanced graphics, turbo mode for faster-paced combat, and the legendary Dark Knight difficulty that throws absolutely insane numbers of enemies at you. The enhanced graphics really make a difference, especially if you're playing on modern hardware. Load times are nearly instant, frame rates are buttery smooth, and the visual improvements are immediately noticeable.
As we wrap up this retrospective, I keep coming back to one thing. Devil May Cry 5 is a game that gets better the more you put into it. On the surface, it's a stylish action romp with great characters and spectacular combat. But dig deeper, and you'll find one of the most mechanically rich and rewarding experiences in gaming. The fact that people are still finding new techniques, still pushing the boundaries of the combat system, and still creating incredible combo videos 6 years after launch tells you everything you need to know about the depth and staying power of this game. If you haven't played Devil May Cry 5, or if you played it at launch and moved on to other things, I genuinely cannot recommend it highly enough. This is a masterclass in game design that's really gotten better with age. The special edition is regularly on sale, the community is still active and welcoming, and the game itself is just as fresh and exciting today as it was in 2019. So, there you have it. Devil May Cry 5 in 2025 is still an absolute masterpiece that deserves its place as the king of stylish action. Trust me, once you start chaining together those combos and watching that style meter climb, you'll understand why I was still talking about this game 6 years later. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe if this helped you decide whether to pick up the game, and let me know in the comments what your favorite Devil May Cry character to play as is. I'll see you in the next one.